Yeah, I think Gotham City is where we ought to buy a house. Let's make it really permanent.
That's what anybody who lives in Gotham should do. They should go out and live in the other places, and then they like, it's not so bad actually in Gotham.
It's not so bad in Gotham. Hey, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We are here talking about Peacemaker. Season 1, Episode 6. Murn after reading.
And only Episode 6.
And that's right. That's right. Hey, we caught up. We open with Murn revealing himself to Leota. As we suspected, he's a butterfly dissident working to stop the other butterflies from invading. And we learn that the leader of the invasion force is the butterfly that Peacemaker is currently keeping in a jar. We end with the newly butterflied police force issuing a statement that Peacemaker's diary's been found, in which he's admitted to killing people he thinks are aliens, and he is now public enemy number 1. Credits. Paul.
Yes?
What did you think of Episode 6?
I enjoyed it. It's interesting how the story is progressing. I definitely did not predict, see that coming with the whole police force. And also the criminal force, too.
Right. There were the guys in the jail. Yeah. Yeah, that scene was brutal.
Yeah, that was pretty intense.
Right, because I'm not much of a horror movie guy. That was kind of more straight up horror, maybe a bit more than for my liking. But it was unexpected. I did not see the idea that Sophie, for instance, our cop, our detective, would get dinked quite that way. I mean, obviously she's still kind of around, but not really.
Yeah.
She's a zombie butterfly. But wow, I was like, whoa, and the scene of her walking, the slow motion walk into the police station with the butterflies coming in, and we know some of those cops, like we know her partner.
Yes.
We know, and then to see them getting killed in brutal fashion, like, woo.
Yeah.
Show got dark. Show got dark there for a bit.
It did. It did.
For sure. It has that capacity, I suppose. However, you've got these other beats a la the show and tell in the little kids' classroom scene, which remind you the show can be silly and absurd.
Yes.
Apparently, Peacemaker has gone there at the request of the janitor from the hospital.
Yes.
So just to see him answering questions about what it's like to be a hero. Again, it's that, James Gunn's finding ways to ask the question, like, is he a hero? Is he a villain? How do we,
Yes.
So it was a fun way to do it.
It's interesting that he didn't introduce the children to the reason why he didn't have a coterie of villains.
Right, yes.
He gave that answer earlier in the series.
Right. Well, he did say something, I forgot the exact quote, but when he's talking about Kite Man, he's like, I took him out with just these 2 fists, a desert eagle, and a couple of, in other words, these 2 fists would be like, oh, okay, you beat him up. But then he's like, and I shot him, and I had a missile, and I'm like, okay, all right. One of the kids asks him, like, hey, so what's your origin story?
Yes.
They all know, they know what villains, should have, or heroes should have. Like, oh, in the comics, you guys have an origin story. So that makes you
but one
back.
thing, though, that you have to sort of ask yourself, since most of the heroes have secret identities, quite a lot of origins are very personal. So it's like if you ask the kid, what's Batman's origin? Oh, well, his parents were shot when he was a kid. And
Great point. When and where was that exactly? Okay.
Whose parents?
They were really wealthy? And it was coming out of a movie, you said?
Superman was a baby who came to the planet raised by the Kents.
They were in Kansas and... So in his mind, he doesn't reveal it, but we see his flashback to apparently he feels responsible, at least, for killing his brother.
Yes.
His dad was there, however, so I feel like there's more to the story.
Sure.
That maybe the dad kind of engineered the situation or something. But in any case, whatever happened, Peacemaker feels like he killed his brother.
Yes,
and
yes.
Set him off. I did also like, for whatever reason, in the background on the chalkboard, it had word of the day, moistly It's like, also, we had, of course, one of the kids. The thing ends with the "I think you might be my dad."
Yes.
like, all right, that's enough for the show and tell. There we go. And he gives every kid an insulting nickname.
Yes. Yes.
They were funny, but it was just like, oh man, Murn, has revealed himself to Leota. Claims he's the sole dissonant. That's the part that I'm like, really? You're the only butterfly that was against this plan?
And we don't know, he doesn't say how many, right? I mean, there's quite a lot that, infect these, a
lot that the golf brings down.
Yeah.
Is it possible that Murn is not necessarily a good guy, but maybe he was the former leader? Maybe. And he got overthrown by Goff, let's say. And so now he's trying to basically, I don't know, he's self-interested in basically, I don't know. It just feels weird that he's
there's not a group of them? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. That it's just this one guy who's for some reason this particular butterfly, and the reason, and then he went and found Murn. His whole explanation was, I found the guy who was the worst guy I could find. So it was okay to kill him, although I still feel his memories, and I feel the pain of that. I don't know. It was an interesting scene. I just wonder.
Right. The way they set it up with Judo Master or whatever, saying that it's not what it appears. The fact that they made a point out of keeping that butterfly around. So dramatically, you get the question, what's the point of keeping that around when, as much as we know about these butterflies and their characters, you could have just said, oh, another one took over and that was that. So, actually having the same butterfly be with, Peacemaker for all that time, and then finally
and communicate with him.
And something I didn't think of so much, but you made me think of when we were talking about it, is it seems like they're really focused on Peacemaker,
right?
And that's curious because it's probably not through Peacemaker that they can take over the world. So,
Agreed. So what is it? Yeah, because Sophie's really fixated on finding Peacemaker when she's been. Well, actually, before and after.
Yeah, that's right. No change.
but yeah, there's no change in that. It's not okay, job done. Now I can move on and control the world. No, I need to get Peacemaker. It's okay, interesting. Maybe getting Peacemaker as a way to get to Murn? I don't know. Maybe Sophie realizes that Murn is this dissident butterfly and wants to get to him.
They made a point out of the fact that Peacemaker does not know that Murn is infected with the butterfly, so
nobody tells him.
I could also imagine that the other butterflies don't know that Mirn is where there's another butterfly.
Right. That's a good point. The attempt to communicate with Goff was another funny scene. It's Vigilante and Peacemaker trying to do the yes or no tap on the glass. The funniest part to me was when they try to question Goff's motives through sci-fi movies. The best one of those, I think Vigilante says, are you here so we can play you a shitty song like in Close Encounters?
Yes, that was Vigilante.
Obviously Peacemakers was are you here so we can help you get home like E.T.? None of them are right. I guess eventually they might have clicked on the right film, but they didn't before the cops showed up. Obviously there's that scene. Then obviously Goff escapes, and then that shocking moment where just brutally kills Sophie. And
it takes a while. She's struggling and convulsing. Yeah, it's pretty intense. Oof. I think they're getting closer to having Amelia and Chris hook up.
They certainly had a scene where they were, coming together. Certainly, she was admitting that maybe her initial evaluation of him was wrong.
Yep, and giving her name to, so you can address her instead of just as her last name.
Great point. Amelia.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah, it is Amelia.
We also see Leota has another meeting with her love interest.
Right.
and she can't tell her what's going on, but she confides in her as much as she can to say, look,
Sure.
I can either betray my team or betray my mom. Neither of those seems like a good idea. And her partner's like, well, we could just, what would she say? Let's go back to Gotham. Like, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, it's like, with all this stuff that's going on, I think it'd be better in Gotham.
Yeah, I think Gotham City is where we ought to buy a house. Let's make it really permanent.
That's what anybody who lives in Gotham should do. They should go out and live in the other places, and then they like, it's not so bad actually in Gotham.
It's not so bad in Gotham. You know what? This metropolis. I'm getting a little bit of Leota's girlfriend is in trouble. Maybe. Could be a death in there coming.
You sound like you're coming. You're not ready to mat her yet. You're wanting to though.
Not.
It feels like you. Okay.
I'm like, I could see how,
Yeah, I mean, they would really be asking for it. It's like, oh, did you have to fridge her? She's not even the star of the show.
Right,
like,
right.
So, yeah, we thought that'd be okay. She's not, Leota's not the star, so, you could fridge her.
Maybe it's this. Maybe it's the threat of her death is what makes Leota change her mind.
It certainly could motivate Leota if she decided that she couldn't take it anymore. If she would just leave her. They could just have that happen.
Yep.
Keep
it a little less
it would be
violent.
Cruel if they put a butterfly in her, that would be really cruel.
Yeah,
one of the things that they I think deliberately did is giving these butterflies the memories of the people that they take over, so that they can still function socially, even though what is it?
Their attempts to smile. That's pretty creepy.
Yeah, and then, we were watching a couple of episodes, and Murn is quite socialized. I mean, he's not as awkward socially as these other people we see, which is interesting.
Yeah, when you see the newly turned Sophie, she's still trying to figure out oh, I'm a cop or whatever. So it's still. Whereas you're right, Mirn is just like, no, I'm completely in sync with who I used to be. To the point of you're right, having all the memories from way before the butterfly killed him.
Yeah, I mean most of the time we were seeing them, they're pretty stoic and even keeled, but there have been more than enough times when Mirn has been so frustrated with the people he works with that he has to emote quite vigorously. So, they're setting something up. I hope that there is more dimension to these butterflies than, they're just a different form of zombie.
So one thing we do have is, the show has given us the way to kill the butterflies.
Yes.
Which is the butterflies have to have this very specific nectar that only comes from this one source, and if we can destroy that one source, that's it, and they'll starve or have to leave.
Sure.
And so they are actually, at the end, for the next episode, they're heading to this barn where they keep the cow, which to me suggests Futurama reference, Slurm. Slurm was secreted by this giant worm-like creature that they were like, oh, right, and everybody's drinking it, oh, it's great. So similar here, I think there's going to be some giant creature that secretes the...
It really just tells me that you wanted to be in on that game where you're like, is it like Slurm in the... And you went tap, tap.
Let me ask you yes or no questions that aren't yes or no questions. Why did you invade? I think there's a creature. They said it could even be subterranean underneath the barn, but there's going to be a big bug hunt, I assume, there at the barn, and it could maybe that's I mentioned maybe there's a Mothra. Maybe that's where we get a Mothra type scene. I think there'll be a kaiju type creature that they have to attack.
Sure.
Perhaps, that will theoretically start to end the butterfly threat.
Sure.
We also saw, during the brutal, add to the brutal scenes, Eagly doing some killing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It was actually kind of a fun scene where they're running through the woods and Eagly's swooping,
yes.
And then, and you just see a series of guys. It's like the killer rabbit from the Holy Grail.
I think it's possible some of those people could have survived those attacks.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Not after they got shot by the cop guy. We've got also this kind of a quiet moment where Peacemaker sees his piano and he starts playing Motley Crue's "Home Sweet Home," and it's just a kind of a nice quiet scene. And he plays for a while. He plays a good portion of the song. What do we think he's thinking in that moment? I mean, I was getting the fact that he seemed to be reflecting on the fact that he feels like he might be affiliated with the wrong side. You know, like he had that guy killing the cops behind him as he's running away.
Right.
He released this butterfly that then killed the cop, and it felt like he was starting to question, like, I wanted this to be better, and I seem to be on the wrong side in this moment. I don't know. And if you had an idea of what might be in his mind as he's playing that song.
I mean, it's possible that he's thinking that, but the way you're phrasing it make it more seem like someone who has a stronger sense of their own values. And so, am I on the right side? And I think it still might be a part of his sort of like, is me killing exactly what I think I should be doing.
Right, because he did have that thing where he comes out and says, look, it wasn't just this dove not on the gun. I didn't want to kill anybody. He says that out loud.
Right.
So, we get that feeling that he's coming to this moment where killing he doesn't want that to be the answer.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. And yet people are dying around him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a fun little fact was when I saw him start to play Home Sweet Home, it made me laugh because back in high school, my crew, the Geek Gang, whenever we the music room had the piano was just available, and we would many times go out, hang out in there, and then someone would inevitably start playing Home Sweet Home on the piano. In fact, we would play it like one person took the left hand, the other person would take the right hand. So it's so it's just interesting that is that just like kids of the '80s have to play home? It's like their version of chopsticks. You got to play Home Sweet Home on the piano. But yeah, I was waiting for a note to break into song. Right, you got to do the. I'm a dreamer. So I was like, oh, he's doing the instrumental. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know. If you're out there, is that something that people do? Is that something like, I thought it was maybe just something that our group was like, oh, Home Sweet Home. But then,
yes.
here's this guy going Home Sweet Home.
Because my group certainly didn't.
You didn't do Home Sweet
No,
Home?
we didn't. No. So yes, if it was just those two people in the subject, in the experiment, then yes, it's in the survey.
That's it. Okay.
No, it's not.
The other thing we have to do is in class, you have to pick the right class to do this, but if you were in class, if one of the Geek Gang at some point just kind of out of the blue just went, I want to rock, and everyone else had to go, rock! Anyway, so you had to do that. You had to do the call and response in the classroom. So we've got now the idea of like the 80s pop metal, especially Motley Crue, Poison. They've named Guns N' Roses. I personally wasn't familiar with Wigwam, and I couldn't have named you any songs from Hanoi Rocks. But if we were going to take
you
like
aware
80s,
of Hanoi Rocks, I was not.
I'd heard the name,
okay.
But I couldn't have told you a single song they had. So with that in mind, though, I was thinking like it might be a fun thing to have people comment on what do you predict might be an 80s pop metal song that we'll see in the coming episodes. And I'll throw out one that I thought might be, and I don't think they're going to be uber obvious. You mentioned this, like I don't think they'll go with James Gunn probably won't go with the easy answers. So it's going to be something slightly lower.
Probably too late to include any Meatloaf songs.
Oh, yeah. Too soon. So I'm going to go with Def Leppard off of the Pyromania album, but one of the lesser songs of it, not one of the big hits like Rock of Ages or something. I'm going to go with Die Hard the Hunter. It's kind of got the right feel. The lyrics kind of match up. So I'm going to go with Die Hard the Hunter as my song. Now, I do feel this. We have Peacemaker's dad is now, he got out of jail because Sophie's like, yeah, you were framed, so you get to leave. He gets out of jail, he puts on the white dragon costume, and he says he's going basically to kill his son. As we kind of predicted that there might be a father versus son battle. Sure enough, it's coming. And I gotta think, when they get square off to fight, especially because John Cena, professional wrestler, you're gonna have the wrestler metal intro, right? So I feel like White Dragon's gonna appear, and there's gonna be some kind of Enter Sandman type, something will like set him off as he shows up. So if you've got an idea for what theme might be White Dragon's theme as he shows up to fight his son.
Yeah, I think the only thing that pops into my head is something I think they've done already. I think they've done Kiss Me Deadly.
Especially because of the way the butterflies kill people.
Yes.
Like through the mouth. Seems like the plan all along was Amanda Waller, obviously had her daughter infiltrate this group with this diary so that basically Peacemaker will just take the fall for all of the killings they're doing. Basically hide the team's identity. Because it's not that he's being framed for killings that didn't happen. Like the people that they named all got killed. It's just they were, alien bug things first. So it just feels like that was and the idea was to try to just hide the existence of the group by blaming it on lone psychopath that must now be dealt with.
Yeah, it's hard to think of why that would be something Amanda Waller would be interested in. Because she already has leverage over him. He hasn't been pardoned, so she could decide at any moment to throw him back in prison.
And they got the little bomb in his neck.
Yes, they got a little bomb in his neck. I mean, I don't know if what they're setting us up for is she's being ruthless yet again. And, once, Peacemaker's outlived his usefulness, then rather than blowing his head up, she arranged for him to die in some other way that's not quite suspicious.
It was a little confusing on Goff, our butterfly leader. Obviously was like, make the peace sign.
Right.
When they were doing the little knock on the glass, was basically like, no, we're not here to kill you all off. And yet, the second Goff escapes, basically kills Sophie and takes over and then sends a bunch of butterflies to kill off a bunch of cops. So was it just that Goff was lying? Is it like Goff is as ruthless as Amanda Waller in some ways? Or what are we, is there some other shoe to drop there? Where it's like, oh no, you see, it was a necessary death count in order to achieve this positive result. I don't know. Anyway,
but
I feel like the easier answer is lying.
Because that'd be quite the feat, right? Because not only would you have to see that their objectives aren't as nefarious as they appear, but the one butterfly that we depending on, the one in Murn, was wrong. Either you were lying or something, and that's quite a lot of gymnastics
in a universe in which it seems like a lot of people lie. The idea that the aliens might lie isn't that big a stretch. So it's probably just the simplest answer. It was lying to get out of the jar, and realize that Peacemaker might be a sucker.
The act of them existing by killing, is probably enough where at the end of the day, end of the season, that their incursion should be stopped and everyone who is jumped in, somebody is going to die. But I wonder, if they're going to do something else as a solution. And they gave us the titles of the last episode: "Stop Dragging My Heart Around," and it's "Cow or Never."
All right, so in other
they
words,
don't deal with the cow until the 8th episode.
Okay, interesting. So the next episode sounds like father versus son.
Oh yeah.
And then they deal with the cow. Okay. Right. Okay. So look forward to see how they wrap this up. We've got this Boba Fett season finale coming up as well, and it looks like the Rings of Power first trailer where we see actual footage from the show, might be dropping during the Super Bowl. If that happens, I will be chatting about that.
Sure, of course,
as well. So anyway, thank you as always, Paul. Appreciate it, good
You're
sir.
Welcome.
And we'll talk to everybody next time. Bye.
Bye.